is Beam and what makes it unique? And how does the chain specifically empower Beam's gaming ecosystem?
Well, the Beam network is a set of tools that basically empower game studios to interact with the chain directly within the game. This has a ton of upsides. For instance, all of the achievements that a player has will get locked down into the blockchain, or it will be transferred to an NFT that is interchangeable if we allow them to be interchangeable. They can sell those NFTs on the marketplace. They could buy skins or whatever from the game studios who have translated those skins into NFTs from the marketplace, store them in their own Beam wallet, log into the games, have those assets available. Also, true ownership. When it's on your wallet, it's on your wallet. So it's not something that is in the game anymore. It's literally yours, and you can do anything that you want with it. So, yeah, that's about it.
The Beam network is pioneering a big transition from proof of authority to proof of stake. Can you explain how this impacts the network's security and decentralization? And if we can get there, like what kind of unique issues or challenges it presented as an Avalanche L1?
Well, a blockchain is supposed to be decentralized, meaning that if the controlling party would, for some reason, be wiped off the earth, the thing would stay. At the moment, that's not true for Beam, at least, because we are using proof of authority, meaning we hold the keys in our ledgers and we are the only ones who are allowed to update the network and execute certain items. That has nothing to do with decentralization. So we are moving towards a proof of stake setup, transferring our subnet, as they used to call them, to an L1, and truly have a truly decentralized chain. Meaning, if our AWS account or whatever where we host our nodes, because there are multiple locations, would all stop working, then the chain would still survive. And that's extremely beneficial, becoming truly decentralized.
Yeah, and part of that decentralization is means including your community more, right? Yeah, and part of that decentralization is means including your community more, right?
Yeah, obviously. Sorry. So we have created node tokens, and with those node tokens, you are eligible to become a validator yourself. As a validator, you will receive rewards because obviously it costs money to become a validator. So we like to compensate that with rewards that should be higher than the amount that it costs to run a validator. And the community has been extremely welcoming to this whole endeavor, and the amount of tokens that have been minted is humongous. So yeah, we can't wait until we can go live.
Over 58,000 node tokens minted and 2 billion beam burned. It's a lot of interest in the beam nodes for this upgrade. What do you think drove that demand?
Yeah, well, it's a mix of things. Beam has become a quite a big name in the community, and we have done a lot of stuff that is not 100% related to gaming. We've been working with items as in AI, with real world assets, and we keep experimenting and figuring out what new pillars we could utilize and use the chain for. I think to this has grown the community quite some time because the community also really gets heard. A lot of questions and suggestions that have been funneled through the Discord from the community have been executed, and I think that creates a certain level of trust. We trust the community; they help us out, and we help them out. It's a vice versa thing.
Okay, so the Beam team created a custom relayer system that abstracts the P chain interactions and enables the Beam Foundation to sponsor validator fees. This is a bit technical, but how does that user experience for node operators compare to the traditional validation approach?
So back in the day, you would register a validator, and then you would have a account linked to it. That account should have sufficient fees to pay for the monthly fee that the validator requires. In our case, it's 1.33 AVAX each month. We have a system that basically monitors all of the nodes and fills up the wallets, so that every month the validators that are functioning properly, because that's a requirement, get topped off, and then we will be sponsoring their monthly fees through the incentive foundation project, I think it's called. But yeah, so they don't need to worry about it, so it makes their life easier.
Oh, and is that something that everyone is gonna get? Is that open source? Like, is everyone gonna potentially?
The relay is going to be open source. Yeah. So right now we just have like an alpha version, and then it's going to be implemented into the ICM services. And it's going to be something that if the chain expects that they're going to sponsor their user, then they're going to have to run that. Otherwise, it's you like have to use core wallet, um, which isn't ideal for a lot of chains, right? You don't want to have your users only using one wallet.
Yeah. So is this like, was this something you anticipated, Owen, or is it came up in the process of building with Beam and you? Yeah, tell me about that.
It definitely, I would say it came up in the process as we're building with Beam. I think most of our engineers here do use Core Wallet, and that's probably the only way that you can interact with the P chain. I mean, there are some other open source solutions, but definitely not as popular as Core. Um, so yeah, we pretty quickly realized that we need some type of relayer service to kind of do these cross chain and like round trip messages from the Beam L1 all the way to the P chain, and then back.
Interesting. Okay, so if you're out there thinking about building an L1, I know there's a lot of people in this transition right now, or like approaching the transition to an L1. This is something that they should seek out. And yeah, how do they find that?
Yeah, it's in the Avalabs GitHub organization. It's a private branch right now, unfortunately, but within like the next couple of weeks, we'll release it into the ICM services repository. Same place that you find the signature aggregator and the like the normal relayer for ICM messages.
All right, the delegation system is about to launch soon. What factors do Beam token holders need to consider when selecting nodes to delegate to?
Well, it's quite simple. All of the rewards will be divvied up according to the amount that is staked, and that is set in stone. The only thing that can happen is that a validator goes offline. So you need to make sure that you choose a validator that has a good track record. And even when the validator where you've staked to goes offline, you could always unstake or restake to a different one. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, simple. Is that restaking or the redelegating aspect? Is that something new? Is that something you built along this process? Oh, when I see you nodding.
The way these validator operations all happen is through a new standard of contracts called ACP 99. And that consists of a validator manager and also a staking manager. And if you're looking to go POS, then the staking manager is what you're going to customize. So out of box, I believe Ava Labs built out a native token POS system, right? So can have a native token, you can stake it, and you can delegate to node operators. Beam went ahead and took that and added a few customizations, such as NFT staking. So you have to have an NFT to become a validator. Then also they added the notion of redelegation, where it's if you're delegating a stake to a validator and you don't want to like undelegate and then redelegate or undelegate and then stake, they just have like a single nice operation you can do where you don't have to withdraw your balance and redeposit it. You can simply just transfer it to another validator.
Interesting. It's really cool how like this whole process, I feel like Beam is pushing the network forward, right? It's like they had this idea and then together we're developing the solution that other networks can use in the future. And then being one of the firsts means that almost everybody's going to get access to these before they start the process, which is nice. Be worse if this was like the 20th L1 and then we build these nice solutions and everyone before you is kind of like, wait, what is the hardest technical development challenge to overcome in this process?
Well, I think in this process, it's mostly the validator manager contract. When we started on the contract itself, the ACP 99 did not exist yet. I think we were one of the heavy inspirers of this contract, though. Then Avalanche created this standard, and we needed to change our validation manager again. And there were a lot of hurdles. Initially, it was even too big to deploy, so it needs to be cut up. And then inside of the ACP 99, Avalabs also created a standard for cutting up the contract so that it becomes deployable, and so on and so forth. It was an extremely complicated subject, and it went well into most nights for the last 4 or 5 weeks. But I'm really appreciative about how everybody just pulled together, and nobody had an issue with working a little bit late. And also from the Avalab side, it was a tremendous amount of support. So that was, yeah, it was really, well, it was a cool event.
Yeah, yeah, you're innovating. You're doing something like totally fresh here, right? Yeah. Yeah. And what does it look like to work with Ava Labs on that? Like, are you and Owen on calls or weekly, or what kind of?
Yeah, initially it was I think 2 times a week, and then we did a daily, end of the day for us, beginning of the day for for you guys. And Martin Eckhart, he was a real champ, managing everything, keeping track of all of the things that needed to be done, having checklists there, dividing stuff up between multiple um, uh, teams that were responsible for different aspects, keeping track of everything, making sure that we test the correct stuff. Our project management team also helping out, figuring out who needs to do what, are there any impediments or whatever. And always happy to help, always with a smile. And yeah, just playing good vibes, even though it was like we sometimes felt like a salmon just swimming upstream, but it's always good vibes. So it was fun. Owen also.
Owen, do you actually just kind of the same question to you? Do you have the same answer? Like, what's the hardest technical development in this process of getting Beam to upgrade their L1?
I would say the biggest thing is that we released the Etna upgrade in December, right? And with that upgrade, we had a 1.0 version of the validator manager contracts, which was audited, released, good to go. But the problem with that was, as Renee mentioned, there wasn't much customization you can do, purely because of like the physical like deploy limit of the bytecode. Like you couldn't add more code and deploy, or the contract would be too big. So this is where ACP 99 came in, and most of the contracts themselves aren't that like complex or different, but most of the legwork came in because our tooling only supported the 1.0 version. So kind of on the DevRel team, we had to scramble and make a lot of changes to support these new ACP 99 contracts that the Beam team is going to want to use, and many other L1s in the future are going to want to use. So it was a lot of like kind of back and forth internally with our like the different tooling teams that Avalab has, but also like what DevRel team manages on the build.avax website. And yeah, everyone kind of came together, saw that there's a place that we needed to be, and we all worked to get there.
I do love that about working on Avalanche. It's like when we have a very clear goal and need, everyone comes together, and the network really feels like a network at that point. I love it. Well, we got into this a little bit, but I think this is just a more direct question. What's been the best part about building with the Avalanche tech stack? And Renee, earlier you told me you're relatively new to Beam, this year or something like that. So you're probably relatively new to Avalanche as well. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Certainly, yeah.
What do you think's the best part so far?
All of the parts that I've been working with don't don't exist on the customer facing side. So we were just only in pioneering land. And I think if you're in such a situation, uh, you get an even better feeling for a company because you speak to all of the people behind the products, and then you understand the way that they think and how they what their approach is to a problem. And yeah, I think I've said it a couple of times in this interview already, but it's just the support that is thus far the best thing that happened. And well, yeah, you didn't mention it, but you also needed to update the Avalanche CLI because we obviously wanted to use a multi-sig instead of a regular one. So yeah, uh, that just got released and installable, even on a Unix machine that always gives people headaches about everything. It just worked. So yeah, it was awesome. The support. I'm clearly gonna say the support.
Hey, Owen, you've worked on some other blockchains. What is your favorite part of working with the Avalanche tech stack?
I think what Renee says is when you do it right as a user and there's no user errors, then it just works, right? Like the interoperability out of box is probably the biggest thing that drew me to Avalanche when I thought about working here. And then during my interview process, when Martin gave me my take home assignment, everything like just sort of worked, and it was like really magical for me. And I realized that blockchain doesn't need to be this whole complex system. You can really break it down to fundamentals and focus on those fundamentals and make really cool things.
What about the reaction from the community so far? We talked earlier about 58,000 node tokens minted. Clearly, they were excited. What's been like the feedback and conversations since the node mint?
Well, everybody just wants to get started, and that is completely understandable. And it's pretty hard for us to explain in a tweet or in a one-line Discord or Telegram message why things are taking a little bit longer, and that we are flying and doing our best and burning the midnight oil and etc. etc. Well, maybe this interview would give some perspective to that. That would be great. But yeah, excitement. They just want to go. They have been asking every day from when can we start delegating, and I want to get going. And the most beautiful memes and avatars just pass by on Telegram. It's people want to get going. They want to go.
We've seen a lot of interest in the intersection of AI and gaming. And I know you guys are partners with Aether in some way, and the Avalanche Foundation is as well. And they have a lot to do with AI. But what sort of plans do you have for Beam with AI integrations?
Well, um, we have a really broad palette on ideas with AI because it's such a fun tool to work with, and it could also enrich the whole gaming experience on so many levels. Just think about a character you walk up to, and you can just have a proper conversation, and then maybe even after a couple of minutes, just realizing it's a non-player character instead of just a regular one. Those are things that really really excites us, and there are so many angles of using AI within gaming. We have a whole team figuring out what best approaches are, and how we could enrich the ecosystem and what we could do and everything. But for now, it is all focused on the L1.